Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast, Evil Dungeon Master Universe Podcast. I'm your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince, and today's time for another podcast episode. Hopefully you're doing well out there. But first, TheEvilDM.com is my website. AskTheDM at TheEvilDM.com is my email address. Solo.to/TheEvilDM is where you can keep up with everything I'm doing, all the projects, everything, little things, donations, whatever. You can go there and check it out. Today, I got an email that I wanted to go through from Jeff. No, not Jeff that joins me on the live streams on my podcast. No, this is some other Jeff out there in the community. Not that you're another Jeff. You're a very valued Jeff, but this Jeff is a long-term player of AD&D, and he wanted me to talk about base campaigns or campaign missions and things like that, or mission hubs and things like that. So we're going to talk about mission hubs or campaign hubs when it comes to having a game. So it's kind of a general advice type thing today. Might be interesting. It may not be interesting. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments when you're listening to this video, either on Spotify or on YouTube. Or you can email me what your opinion is of this, or you can go to my website and respond there on the Substacks. So anyway, what is a mission or a hub-based world campaign? Well, plain and simple, it's a base of operations where all the characters will go at the end of the session or the end of the adventure or the current arc of the campaign. It's where they go to recuperate, where they go to heal up, rest their heads. It's where they go to research. It's where they go to train. It's where they store supplies. It's also a place where they can possibly obtain missions, or at least in somewhat that of an area. This philosophy works really good in older video games, those older RPGs, we used to play back on the computer back in the 80s and the 90s, Ultima Online, things like that. Sure, you explored the worlds and stuff and went around and did this or that, but you always had a base of kind of an operations, a place you can rest, hide, something like a safe spot or a safe space. That term always makes me laugh these days. But you can go in there, store, rest up, train, research things. It works well in video games. Does it work well inside of a tabletop RPG? Absolutely it does. I've proven this many times with many campaigns I've run. In the past, I ran World of Arcanus, which was an AD&D 1E actual play podcast, which you can still find out there going by going to rollhigherdie.com, listening to those 5 seasons of it. The characters had a hidden base in the town where most of the adventures took place. Yeah, most of the adventures were, like, I guess you would call them urban adventures or city adventures. And they had this place in town where they can hide out, they can rest, and they can obtain missions from their resistance leader. And it was kind of an interesting game. In my Marvel X Universe game, which is Marvel Phase Rip game, I had villain characters. They had a couple of bases where they would always come back to rest, find out more information, or plan their next move. And from there, they would go out and cause chaos and then come right back to this hidden base. Sure, the bases got found by heroes or other villains, but they still had a place to go. In the Dead Rain game I had called Dead Winter, they had a FEMA station that they had found, and they used that as their base of operations. And they went out. Each day was kind of like each session or each get together was there. They had a certain mission. They would drive to a certain spot. They would scout for food, water, supplies. That was basically their mission. And then they would bring it back to this place, this base of operations where they secure it before someone else stole it, or a conflict happened, or something of that matter of a zombie, horde trying to find them. So it's actually works pretty well. In my recent basic fantasy game, which will be up to listen to very shortly after we have a few more sessions, they have a place inside of a town where they can go, their own house, their party house, so to speak, where they can go and hide their gold and equipment and rest and everything inside the village and not have to worry about most things. 99% of things, the dragon attacks or giant goblin horde attacks. No one's foolproof. I mean, like they always say, the chances of being attacked with by a tank driven by a cat is not never. It's just not likely to happen, but it could happen. So this really works well when it comes to this situation for doing this. And it also works well if you have players that are, I guess, kind of unreliable or life just gets in the way. And I'm not putting the two of those together. I'm just saying those are just some examples. Life gets in the way, and some people that are unreliable. People can drop in and out of the games as need be, and there's no reason why that they're missing. It's just this week that, oh, Tom's missing, so Tom decided to stay back while the rest of the group went out exploring. This is their mission. You can even take out two player characters, excuse me, and this is their side adventure. As long as you don't have an overarching like campaign story going on that keeps the players away from this hub or house or thing too long, after every game, they can come back to this place and have a fresh start the next day, just like when you would do something in an RPG, a console game, or a computer game. Some people don't think it's very natural. I think it's perfectly fine to do this. And like I said, it's great for people that drop in and out of the game. So the DM can prepare his adventures, have a certain amount of things prepared. Now, if everybody restarts this in this one safe house or whatever every day in the village, he could prepare a full adventure for the party, or he can have something for some people of the adventure. So he has two options to have things ready to go. So that's why I always thought that a hub and a mission campaign is always the best thing to do. I love open sandbox games where you can just roam around and do anything you want to do when it comes to gaming. And players should have a good amount of free reign when it comes to wandering around in my world. I'm facilitating the world for them. They should have the ability to, here or there. So I always have a bunch of things planned. Like in my basic fantasy game, I have a whole hex map full of things ready to go so they can go wherever they wish to go. They want to travel through the forests and go to an ancient tomb that's been sitting there for years? Go for it. You want to stay in town and explore the town and the area around the town because you feel it's a little more safe at level 1? Do it. I'm not the type of person that's going to railroad players into going anywhere. I suggested they stay close to the village and the safe area, so to speak, for their level, because I'm treating this just like a traditional 1E game. That's like a Gygaxian game. The further you travel away from like civilization, probably the more the monsters are going to be and the more scarier things are going to be, especially with random encounter charts that I have. You never know. There could be a giant, dire wolf hiding in the forest somewhere that day, and you run into him and he eats you, and you're only level 1. There's a reason why when I think of the OSR, I think of oh shit run, because that's what it is. You're oh shit running all the time. And it's just the way things work. So hopefully that answers a little bit of a question for you, Jeff. And when it comes to designing these type of games, you're going to want to design things so that the players have enough things to do in the area when it comes to wanting to adventure. If you have a village and you have a base of operations for them and you explain this to them, sure, they'll probably stay there. But once they figure out that there's not much to do, they're going to start going, well, I want to go out and explore. Try to provide a lot of things to do in the area immediately around that base, especially if you're doing something like securing gold for experience points. The more you're doing things like that, the more they're going to want to go out and come back. And when they go out and come back, they're not going to want to go very far. If you don't provide things in this little radius to start, then they're going to explore further out and then do another, probably establish another base of operations in an area where they think they can make the money that they need or find the items that they're looking for. You want them to stay in the area. Sometimes it doesn't work. sometimes players will do what players do. And I've had players in my campaign that are just like, no, I'm walking. And the rest of the party's like, well, we're going to sleep here for the night. No, I'm walking. And those players generally will probably die, um, especially if they're on their own in a dangerous area. Like when I had my Palladium Fantasy campaign, I had a player that when I said there's dangerous monsters everywhere, there's giant birds and pterodactyls and things like that flying in the air. It was nighttime. The group found a good place to hide and sleep. No, this one player was just moving on, and he had a very big chance of being slaughtered by these birds that found him along the path, probably looking for dinner. Luckily, one of the other characters decided to come along and follow up with him because they were concerned that he went out on his own, and wound up getting out of the situation with that other player character who made a dumb move of going on their own. As an evil DM, could I have killed them and slaughtered them right then and there? Sure, easily, because these birds were like 3 times the size, pterodactyl birds, and they were hungry. So I don't know what he was thinking, but I decided to give him a chance. And it worked out okay, because he's played in the campaign until the end. Anyway, I think that's going to be enough for today. Hopefully that answers your question, Jeff. If you guys want to email me, ask the DM at theevildm.com. And my website is theevildm.com. Hopefully you have a great day. Keep original. Keep it old school. Good night. God bless. And keep praying for you. Keep those AD&D fires lit. Good night, everybody.